Hello, my name is Panek. For my presentation, I'm going to talk about the integration of a newer wireless communication technology called Li-Fi. I have listed here a few key areas of discussion. We have Li-Fi fundamentals, Li-Fi versus Wi-Fi, the stakeholder impact, and whether or not this is a good or bad investment. So, what is Li-Fi? Li-Fi stands for light fidelity. It is a mobile wireless technology that uses light to transmit high-speed bidirectional data. It is a visible light communication system, and it basically comprises of multiple light bulbs that form a wireless network. It uses common household LED light bulbs to enable data transfer, boasting speeds up to 224 gigabits per second. Now, Li-Fi and Wi-Fi are similar as they transmit data electromagnetically. However, Wi-Fi with W uses radio waves, while Li-Fi runs on visible light waves. How does it work? An electrical current is applied to an LED light bulb. This is known as the semiconductor device. A stream of light is then emitted from the bulb, in which the signal is transmitted by modulating the light at different rates. Now, the photodetector will receive that signal, and a signal processing element will convert the data into streamable content by interpreting the changes in light intensity. This communication is seamless as the intensity modulation cannot be seen by the human eye. Thus, we have that wireless communication from our light. As you may already know, I like to use visuals. So for this slide, I have basically a layout of the data moving from the internet into our computer. As it goes down the path, it goes to the LED light bulb. This data is fed into this bulb with signal processing technology. The light bulb then sends the data that is embedded in its beam at rapid speeds to the photodetector. That is the modulation that I was telling you about from the previous slide. The tiny changes in the rapid dimming of LED bulbs is then converted by a receiver into an electric signal. This signal is then converted back into the binary data stream that we recognize as web, video, and audio content that displays on our devices. There we go. I do want to mention that this may not be a real representation of this, because usually the light bulb is not going to be over here. And the dongle that is receiving this signal is not going to be that large. It's actually going to be attached to the computer. So in order for this to work, the computer dongle has to be able to see the light. So in reality, if that light was at least right above the computer, that would make a little bit more sense. That would actually be really accurate. In this case, they just wanted you to see the photodetector in the amplification and processing converter doing its job. Now, I have this as a receiver dongle. Right here is known as the Li-Fi XC dongle by Pure Li-Fi. As you can see, there's a photodetector which receives the downlink and an infrared transmitter which sends the uplink. Thanks to the size, this is actually quite manageable. You just plug it directly into your computer, and based off of the light, the LED light that's plugged in, with the help of, well, it actually has to be set up with the Li-Fi enabled technology, you will get your wireless connection. I do want to mention that the transmitter and the detector must not be obstructed. Meaning, in order for you to have continuous connectivity, that cannot have anything over it. So if for any reason your hand goes over on top of the transmitter or the detector, you won't be able to have any kind of internet connection. It must see the light in order for it to work. So I wanted to just add a few devices that was seen on the Pure Li-Fi site. They are hoping to really integrate this kind of technology in all of our devices. You see this integrated laptop, they actually created that. They're in the works of talking with different manufacturers to try to get that as a standard so that we can actually get this fully integrated into our infrastructure. Now, I believe they're also working with some phone manufacturers. But for the time being, they did create a phone case to just basically show how it actually will work. As you also see, I have the lights and the different technology here. Why do we need it? And when I say it, I'm not just talking about Li-Fi technology. I'm also referring to visible light communications. Oh, excuse me. The radio frequency medium is suffering a few drawbacks. I'm not sure if you're familiar with this term, but I've actually read quite a few articles regarding the spectrum crunch. Depending on the person or depending on the article, there are some cases where they argue that there is no spectrum crunch. However, majority of them have talked about a spectrum crunch. Now, a spectrum crunch refers to the lack of sufficient wireless frequency spectrum needed to support a growing number of consumer devices, along with the various government and private sector uses of radio frequencies within the current spectrum allocation. I mean, think about it. We have this new thing called Internet of Things. Everything needs an internet connection. For this reason, the demand is just so high that our current infrastructure, our current method, does not meet that specific demand. Not to mention, I mean, we want better connectivity, more bandwidth, better security, faster communications. All these different things is definitely pushing us further into developing and adopting this type of technology. Sorry, excuse me. Not to mention, the radio frequency isn't safe in some areas. And in this day and age, especially like just with how everything is using an internet connection, we want internet connectivity everywhere. And since radio frequency medium is not safe in certain areas like the hospitals, power plants, airplanes, and stuff like that, by using something like Li-Fi, we can actually put internet connection in there for continual connectivity. Now, I mean, just imagine you're on the airplane and you're sitting underneath your seat, and all you have to do is turn on your light, and with that Li-Fi enabled technology, the visible light technology, we're able to have that internet connection. And lastly, the radio frequency is not safe. Your data can escape through the walls and cannot be contained within a particular area. What I mean by that is that you have to be underneath the light. If your device is not, underneath the light, it's not going to work. Not to mention it cannot go through the walls. If someone is standing right outside, my window, which would make a little bit more sense if you were able to see from my point of view. I am directly underneath the light, but if someone was right here in front of me on the other side of the window, they won't have my internet connection. So there's just many reasons why we would want to go to this kind of technology. Just for another quick visual, I wanted to show you basically the frequency allocations of the radio spectrum. I mean, radio frequencies are a limited resource, and then there's some bands that are not able to withstand such long distances. I mean, wireless carriers can't just install new base stations continuously. And there comes a point where those towers that are being built on, the buildings, hillsides, or even some that I've actually seen disguised as trees, they cannot take in the signals because then it may actually interfere with other stations. For this reason, we are developing solutions to try to mitigate that kind of effect. So I hope this actually kind of gets you a better idea. I thought it was a pretty neat picture to see. So I wanted to actually show you a few pros and cons for this Li-Fi technology. I mean, technically it's just a con, not cons. But as I mentioned earlier, it's a little bit more secure. Li-Fi is more secure than Wi-Fi because it cannot pass through the walls. So since it is actually confined to specific areas, like the lit areas, the threat of being hacked, is kind of reduced. Then we also have very high speed. Now, this technology can provide a download speed of over 30 megabits per second, which is 10,000 times faster than your traditional Wi-Fi bandwidths. And lastly, it's less harmful to health. Radio waves are potentially harmful, to an extent, but Li-Fi does not use radio waves. It uses visible light waves. So, actually feel like there's a little bit more that I'm missing. I also like to think that, by using Li-Fi technology, you're continuously being connected. We have something that is in place, our infrastructure. All we have to do is take the current infrastructure and improve it. We are always using lights. We will always have to use lights. So by incorporating or integrating Li-Fi technology within our lighting structure, we will be able to actually just add the capabilities of what's already in place. And I think it's pretty neat. Pro, I actually think, especially the fact that we already have the infrastructure in place. Now, the limit of connection can also be considered a con. And this is primarily because, we won't be able to use it unless you're underneath the light. So even though if you walk underneath, multiple lights, you'll actually be able to stay connected. But as soon as it goes off, you won't be able to have that connection. So just think about it. You're in your home and you want to lay down, but you want to be connected to your internet, and you turn off your light. Guess what? No network connection. So in this case, I do think that actually having Li-Fi and Wi-Fi working in conjunction would be a little bit better, but that's something I will touch on a little bit later. I do want to mention, though, before we move forward, that the Li-Fi connection does not improve the performance of the internet media. Latency is still very much dependent on the current network equipment, infrastructure, and the ISP. So Li-Fi does not take away your latency at all. You'll still be able to download massive files in a blink of an eye, but if your ISP is encountering any kind of issues or anything going on with your infrastructure, it's not a means to get rid of that. I have listed here a table that actually describes the few differences between Li-Fi and Wi-Fi. This is not me trying to say that Wi-Fi is not, something that we should have. I do not think that Li-Fi should replace Wi-Fi. On the contrary, I mean, like, I feel like these two technologies actually complement each other. But I just wanted you to see the differences in between it. They both transmit data electromagnetically. However, as you can tell, there's multiple things inside there that actually make it a little bit different. So with the transmitter and receiver, Li-Fi uses LED, whereas Wi-Fi uses the antenna. As you can see, the operational speeds are completely different. Li-Fi, of course, being a lot better. A key thing I wanted to say, there's a standard out there, actually, I want to say it's 802.15 Bravo Bravo, that is actually Pure Wi-Fi is trying to establish, or I want to say it is established, where it actually talks about this kind of technology. They really want to make it into its own standard so that we can actually develop it even further. And let's see, we also have our network topology. With Wi-Fi, it's point-to-point. It's basically line of sight. You have to be inside the range. Whereas Wi-Fi is point-to-multipoint. There's no interference issues with Wi-Fi because they don't have RF waves. However, Wi-Fi does have that interference. And lastly, Wi-Fi is suitable for high data rates and secure communication, whereas Wi-Fi is suitable with higher coverage regions. So it definitely depends on your kind of requirements. I mean, sometimes Wi-Fi might be a little bit better for you rather than Li-Fi. However, I still kind of stand with the whole having both of them together would be pretty great. It has been predicted that by the year 2020, there will be 20 billion devices wirelessly connecting to the internet. So when I think of this kind of technology, I feel like there are a lot of stakeholders in place. I mean, with all the people that I have listed up here, they are investing. I mean, of course, with us, eventually it will get to us. We are the ones who are, wanting it, or we're going to be the ones that mainly use it. But we have various organizations, associations, businesses, manufacturers, all of them are coming together and wanting to integrate this kind of technology. Now, for the first one, I wanted to point out, there is a Global Wi-Fi Congress. Now, this Congress was meant to bring so many people together, numerous players worldwide. This is an international event that is working with this kind of technology, this new technology. So with this Congress, we have key members of this kind of technology. We have the scientists, who create it, vendors, different, oh man, I lost the word just now. But basically, you just have these key players that are in a space that allows both professionals as well as scientists to come together and exchange their perspective or their viewpoints for the plans for the future. With these different viewpoints, we can actually think about the applications of Wi-Fi in a wide variety of a domain standpoint, such as, like transportation, aeronautics, cybersecurity, commercial shopping centers, different things that we can actually incorporate this technology. This is a global thing, there's just so many people that can be affected by this. However, I do think that, businesses, scientists who create it, and the manufacturers might be our key contenders in this. But yeah. So final thoughts. In the end, I think this is a good investment. I love the idea and I really appreciate this kind of technology. I think that if we were able to incorporate Li-Fi alongside, mind you, alongside Wi-Fi, I think we could actually have majority of our devices connected in a productive, or not even productive, maybe more effective manner. We'll always use a light. So why not make this light into a wireless like hotspot? I do not think that it is here to replace Wi-Fi. Wi-Fi is still relevant and I think it will always be relevant. But with such a high demand of more bandwidth, the benefits that come with Li-Fi, I feel like really makes a difference. These two technologies together could really transform wireless communications. In my personal opinion, I feel like where one lacks, the other one can prosper. And just with one more visual before we go, I wanted to actually show you how all of it together will be integrated. And I did forget to say cellular because I feel like cellular, Wi-Fi, and Li-Fi can make a huge difference, not just Wi-Fi and Li-Fi. So I think it's pretty neat that we have cellular over here, Wi-Fi over here, and Li-Fi. As you see, then he's continuously, even when he starts walking that way, as long as he's able to actually be underneath the light, he has that connection. So this is a great representation of what I see, what I envision when we have all these connections, all this technology together. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope this was really educational. I hope you liked it. Just let me know if you have any questions, and looking forward to hearing some of the responses on the discussion post. And I appreciate everything, and I hope everyone has an amazing summer.